Thank you, Iliana, for the nice words. That was very sweet of you. I hope you're enjoying your cupcakes, everybody. So, I hope it's okay. I'm going to be sitting because I have to bake 1,000 cupcakes after this event. So, I'm going to be standing up the whole night. So, I need to save my strength. So, as Iliana mentioned, my name is Mariam Mistry. I'm 34 years old, and I'm the founder of Serenity Cupcakes. I have come here tonight to share with you my story. During the next 20 minutes, I will tell you the story about how I went from having a stable full-time job to becoming a full-time cupcake baker. I'll also tell you the story, or a story or two, about the ups and downs of having your own business, the challenges I've met on my way, and what I would have loved to have known before I skydived into this crazy world of cupcakes. So I hope you will enjoy. So, first of all, what made me do such a crazy thing as quitting my nice full-time job and opening a cupcake shop without having absolutely no experience? The short answer is a whole lot of courage, a naive mindset, and a great passion for cupcakes and baking. I haven't always had a dream to become a cupcake baker or have my own shop. Actually, when I was younger, I wanted to be a doctor. However, that didn't happen. So instead, I took an education as a fashion buyer, but I chose a different path. And I got hired at an advertising agency as a PA to the CEO. So it was actually during my time at the agency that I became aware of cupcakes. I had a colleague, and she introduced me to these cupcakes. And in the beginning, I wasn't really blown away. I was like, this is like a stupid cake, and the frosting is difficult to make, and I just thought, okay, cupcakes is nothing for me. But anyway, she made me curious. So I started to experiment at home in my kitchen, and I would spend a lot of time making cupcakes. And then at some point, I actually was blown away. I was so amazed by the fact that you could make something edible so pretty, and I was completely spellbound by all the beautiful sprinkles. You could get all the colors, all the glitter and stardust. It was like a fairy tale world, so I was blown away. And that was when I lost my heart to cupcakes and knew that there was no way back. This was my passion, and so the dreaming began. But it wasn't that easy. I was still working at the agency, and at the time I was 27 years old and enjoying my secure and steady life, where I knew I could pay my bills every month, and I didn't really have any worries in my life. It was a pretty simple life. So the idea kind of stayed in my head and became a dream I wish I had the balls to follow. However, 1 year passed, and I had cupcakes on my mind 24/7. I had turned all my weekends into cupcake baking weekends, where I would either experiment or make cupcakes for friends and family. Like, my whole kitchen floor was full of sprinkles and dust and glitter. Like, every time I would have a guest, they would always have glitter on their clothes. It was like almost a bakery in my small little apartment. So anyway, 1 year passed, and I realized I could not follow my dream anymore. So this was the actual turning point for me. I simply could not let go of my cupcake dream, and I had to take action. I had to take the chance, and I said to myself, either I'm going to break it or make it. And I said to myself, what's the worst thing that can happen? Like, it's not going to be that you're going to die from this or something that's going to kill you. Like, the worst thing that can happen is you're going to owe a huge amount of money to a bank or an investor, but you're not going to die from it. Yeah. So I did it. I quit my job in March 2011. I remember my boss was like, when I sat there and said, yeah, I'm going to quit. I'm going to be a cupcake baker. He was like, a baker? Really? And I could see that he was thinking, she's completely crazy. But I was so confident, and I said, yes, I'm going to make a living out of cupcakes. So I remember I was super excited when I was imagining my new life as a cupcake shop owner. I didn't have years of experience or an education as a baker, but I had a whole lot of courage and belief in myself. Actually, today I wonder, where the hell did I get that courage from? I remember people would tell me, like, do you know how hard it is? And do you have any idea what you're doing? And do you know that bakers, they bake all night and they never sleep? Like, yeah, all is fine. I'm just gonna do this. And I was really so determined to follow my dream, so I didn't listen to anybody who tried to tell me not to do it. I had a very dreamy picture of this whole thing. And also, I didn't have like a business plan or a strategy. Thinking back, it would have been a bit useful to have that. But I was just living in this little cupcake dream world. But I got wiser. I borrowed the money from a close friend who became my investor. The bank were not really hooked on the idea of cupcakes. So I spent 4 months redecorating the shop. I found a location in Copenhagen. And then I developed the concept, I got the visual identity, and there were a lot of decisions to be made during that time. I had to figure out which plates to have, which coffee machine, which cups, which wallpaper. Like, there were a lot of things to decide. And the name, I had actually already found it 1 year before. I chose Serenity Cupcakes because I wanted that to be the feeling that people should feel when they came into my shop. They should feel serenity. And also when they were eating the cupcakes, they should feel, okay, this is totally serenity. So that's why I chose that name. The shop turned out really beautiful, and I loved every inch of it. In the beginning, I remember I thought, oh, it's gonna be so cozy to have this shop. I'm just gonna be chatting away all day, reading magazines. Nobody's gonna tell me I can't read a magazine because it's my shop, so I decide. And I just thought, I'm just gonna have a cozy time with all the customers and just gonna bake a few cupcakes, and it's gonna be really cozy. Like piece of cake. Little did I know, it was nothing like that at all. But I think that my naive way of thinking kind of saved me, because had I known how hard it was, I don't think I would have done it. So the shop opened in August 2011 on Grønnegade in Copenhagen. Already when I opened the shop, I faced my first challenge. I had gotten a really bad infection in my leg, so I was on crutches, so I couldn't walk. So I remember my cousin, who was also my employee, she would carry me around on her back when we went to deliver cupcakes. So it was a bit crazy. Besides me, I had 3 other employees, and I wish somebody had told me how expensive employees are. Because for sure, I would only have had myself if I had known that. They are so expensive. And I learned that the hard way. After 6 months, I had to let all my staff go, and it was really, really sad. But it was a hard decision, but it was necessary. It was either closing the shop or going solo. So I chose, I had to give it a try and try to do this myself, even though I knew it was crazy. So that meant working 24/7, having no personal life, no socializing. I was at the shop more or less around the clock. And when I was baking during nights, I remember I slept behind the counter and took some naps when the cakes were cooling, and drinking a lot of Faxe Kondi Booster, and I was just working more or less all the time. And that went on for 2 years. After that, I could start to hire some girls who could help me out a bit in the weekends, and then after that, I could hire one more girl who would help me 15 hours a week, so I could get just a few hours away from the shop. I remember another story which was kind of a challenging one. I had 500 cupcakes for a clothing company, and I had been sick with the flu for almost 2 weeks, so I was still really, really sick, but I just knew that there was no way that I could cancel this order. So I just had to pull it through, and I remember it took me 22 hours to make these 500 cupcakes, and I was crying my way through it because I was so sick. I had so high fever, and I was just really sobbing, and I just felt like I don't want to do this cupcake shit anymore. I just want to sleep and get better. But I pulled it through, and in the morning when the courier guy, he came to pick up the cupcakes, he could see I was completely stressed out. So he started helping me packing the cupcakes and putting the logos and doing the boxes, and he was so sweet. I was really grateful because I was just completely torn out. However, there were also some good ups. For instance, when my biggest competitor, Agnes Cupcakes, they closed their shops. I remember it was like a Friday or a Thursday, and I kept getting these text messages on my phone, and my friends were writing, "Have you read the news? Have you read the news?" I was like, "No, what's happening? What's happening?" I said, "Agnes Cupcakes are closing all their shops." It's like, "What? Seriously?" I was so happy. Because they were quite a big competitor, and everybody knew Agnes Cupcakes, not so many knew Serenity Cupcakes. So I was really happy, and I could feel straight away when they closed that I got more customers, because there was still a big demand for cupcakes, but people just didn't know Serenity Cupcakes, but now they did. And another funny story was when there was this program on DR1 called Den Store Bagedyst, this baking program. They were doing an episode where the contestant had to make cupcakes. So the TV hostess came into my shop and did like an interview with me about like the story of cupcakes and which cupcake was my most popular one and how my business was and all this. It was only 1.5 minutes, but there were 800,000 viewers of that episode, which meant that the day after, my shop was completely stormed by people. It was like everybody had to have these cupcakes, and I was like, wow, what's going on? And I spoke about, on the program, I spoke about this Oreo cupcake, and I didn't even put much thought into that, but everybody wanted that Oreo cupcake. So I was like sold out within an hour, and I was like, oh my God, what's going on? So I started baking more Oreo cupcakes after that. Another funny thing was when I went to the Royal Palace Amalienborg to deliver cupcakes, I was caught by some paparazzis and some journalists. And I didn't say anything, but they took some pictures. And it was then in some magazines and on the internet. And it was like, after that, there was like a huge boom, because I think people were thinking, okay, if the royal family eating the cupcakes, we also need them. So it was also like increasing the sales a lot. In 2012, there were the Olympics in London, and the Danish embassy, they were doing this event over there where they invited some Danish companies to participate in a promotional marketing event. And then they asked Serenity Cupcakes if I wanted to participate. And this was only 1 year after I opened the shop. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, going abroad with the cupcakes. And of course it did cost some money, but I thought it was like worth it, and we're gonna make so much money over there, like selling the cupcakes, gonna be great business. The other companies that were participating was like Lego, Mask, Danfoss, Danish Crown, Pandora, so I was quite little in that company, but I felt pretty cool being part of that crowd. So I hired my former employee, and we went over there. We packed the whole shop, machines and ingredients and everything, got it shipped over there, and then we rented a place where we could bake these cupcakes. And it was for 4 days the event was there, and we would be baking usually during all the night, and then we went to the venue in the morning where I would stand, like there was this big stone where I could have the tray with cupcakes, and I would stand like out in the open air frosting the cupcakes, and then we would sell the cupcakes the whole day, and then we would go back in the evening and bake again. So we didn't really get any sleep during those days. It was really hard work, but it was a lot of fun. But at the end of this event, there was a reception on the Royal Yacht Dannebroge, where the Queen and the late Prince had invited for this reception for all the participants. So I was really excited about this event, and I had bought a new outfit, and I had been practicing how to curtsy, because I know I was gonna meet the Queen and the Prince. And we could only go like one person from each company, because that was how it is. It was quite strict. So I was slightly nervous, because I knew the other companies that were represented. It was like Danfoss, Danish Crown, Lego, probably some old guys being there, not so many cupcake girls. So I remember when I was standing in line at the yacht, I was pretty nervous and standing there, and then I was looking around, and all I saw was just like men in suits. There were like no other girls, there was only these old men in suits. And then I was just laughing a bit inside of myself, thinking, how the hell did you end up here? But it was pretty cool on the other hand. Even though this Serenity Goes to London thing didn't make any profit, like not at all. It was really, really bad for business, but it was a really, really good experience, and I don't regret we did it. Yeah, Serenity Cupcakes has taken me far. I have built a really strong brand during these years, and I've had a lot of loyal customers, and some customers have even become my close friends. But it has also been 5 really, really hard years of a lot of stress and nights where I haven't slept, just been baking all night. And just in general, I could feel that my body was kind of getting really tired of the hard work. So in 2016, I decided to close the shop. It was the hardest decision ever. It took me 9 months to get ready to kind of do it, because I was a bit in denial all the time, but there were a lot of things that kind of made me think, okay, this is the right thing to do. Like, the rent was increasing a lot, it was getting more and more expensive, and I felt I was just working my ass off only to pay all these bills and expenses, and I was not really making any money. So I thought that this was the right time for me. 5 years is like, that's a good number, 5. So I thought that, okay, I've done it for 5 years, I've accomplished a lot. A lot of people know Serenity Cupcakes, so now it's time to try to work in a different way. So after some time, I figured out that I could maybe make a living out of just doing catering of the cupcakes without the shop, because then I wouldn't have those high expenses anymore. So that's what happened. I closed in November 2016, and then I started doing the catering. And then I started delivering the cupcakes to a cafe on Grønnegade called Topbrewer Cafe, where Iliana was working. And then, of course, I also have done cupcakes for businesses, corporate events, and for weddings and baptisms, and yeah, you name it. I still do for everything. I just don't have a shop. And I do sometimes miss the shop. Like, I think it took 1 year before I started to miss the shop, because in the beginning I was like so fed up, and it had been so hard work. So in the beginning I was just relieved that I didn't have to go every day to the shop, that I could actually have some free time, and I could see my family again, and I could do some things for me. So during those, since 1.5 years, I have been focusing a bit more on myself, and then I'm just trying to figure out what's going to happen with Serenity, where I want to take it. I think the dream is to make it big, but it has to be when the time is right. I would love to have shops again, but just not working the way I did before, maybe with more staff, but then I would have to have an investor, because it's really expensive with the staff. I learned that. But for sure, maybe finding a partner who can do the things I'm not good at, like, for instance, the financial things. I'm really bad at that. So that would be nice to find somebody who could help me out with those things. But these 7 years that I have made cupcakes have changed my whole life. I've learned so much, and I've grown much, like, as on a personal level, but also on a professional level. And in spite of the hard work, I don't regret following my dream. It hasn't made me a millionaire at all, but it has taught me so much that you can't buy for money. So yeah, I don't know if you have any questions.